2024 has been a topsy-turvy year for cars. In my 10 years of being a motoring journalist, I've driven thousands of cars, and yet this has been the most surprising year yet. Not only have diesel sales continued to fall, but I and many others thought that electric cars would be the coolest kids on the block this year. But no, hybrids have exploded with popularity, and I think I know why. Let me show you. Not only do they offer diesel-like fuel economy, but they're also zippy and quick off the line with their electrified punch. And these three have really got me charged up in 2024. But you don't have to plug them all in. But if you are prepared to plug in your car, the rewards can be great, and for not much money, as evidenced by the brilliant MG HS plug-in hybrid, which we've ranked third in our 2024 hybrids category. At £31,495, the HS plug-in is way cheaper than rivals, and yet it beats them all with a 75-mile electric range, making it much cheaper to run. It's not just the numbers that have me really liking that MG HS plug-in, no, it's also the fact that it feels just as nice and as premium as much more expensive rivals. And it also is a practical family car that is really, really nice to drive. But if you don't want to have to plug in your hybrid car, there is one that blends so seamlessly with your life, all it drinks is that. Yes, our second favourite hybrid car of the year is fueled like a conventional petrol car, albeit one that drinks like a diesel. Because the latest Renault Clio hybrid, with its part petrol, part electric setup, sips dinosaur juice to enable over 60 miles per gallon. And that's in the real world, because we actually achieved it on our test. I mean, just look at this. Almost half the engine bay is battery. But this isn't a one-trick pony. No, the Clio is also brilliantly comfortable, and well, it looks great, doesn't it? Just as convenient as that Clio, but for a very different reason, is the winner of our 2024 hybrid category. And yes, before you call me a populist, this is one of the best-selling cars in the UK overall, but for very good reason. So good is our winning hybrid that it almost made the podium in our family SUV class as well. The hybrid Nissan Qashqai e-Power is just that capable, so it offers fantastic self-charging performance to make 50 miles per gallon fuel economy a doddle, and it's got plenty of space to be loaded up with the kids. But what really swayed me on the Qashqai's launch in the summer was how smooth its e-Power delivery is. It feels like an electric car, with zippy acceleration and effort-reducing one-pedal driving. And yet, it's as convenient as a petrol car because it doesn't need to be plugged in. Where other cars, I mean, the one we've driven recently is the Renault Rafale with its hybrid powertrain. That has a real nice kick of electric, but then there's a hesitation from the gearbox as the petrol engine takes up the rest of the load. That is not the case in this Qashqai. This electrified Qashqai therefore represents the very best of hybrid cars today. No wonder they're so popular. But what if you prefer your cars used? Well, don't worry, I've done my research on those as well. So my used pick from the world of hybrids is the Kia Sportage HEV. And HEV stands for Hybrid Electric Vehicle because this is the one you don't have to plug in. It's a self-charging car, which means it's easy to live with, it's super practical, and I'm sure you'll all agree, is really handsome. Look at that thing. It's not just hybrid cars that have seen an explosion in choice this year, because family cars are also leaving us all spoilt for choice. And actually, evidence for that is the fact that my third favourite of 2024 is a brilliant Renault. But it's not this stylish Megane. No, it's the flashy new Renault Scenic. But rest assured, we haven't chosen this car for its looks. It's here on genius family SUV merit. With a spacious plush interior, clever infotainment tech, and no shortage of boot space, the Scenic ticks all the family car boxes. But look a little closer and you'll discover that it goes a step further, with some really nifty rear seat features to keep the kids happy, even on longer journeys. That's pretty cool. I've not seen that in a car before. But if you need more space from your family car, there was one that launched earlier this year, and I'm ranking it second in the family car class because it has all of the road presence of a Range Rover, but it comes packed with family-friendly features. I mean, how many cars have rear doors that open a full 90 degrees to make access with a pram easier? Honestly, our second favourite family SUV of the year, the Honda CR-V, is an enormously sensible car. It's got quick infotainment, chunky buttons where you want them, and a versatile boot that's dog-friendly. Oh, and you even get a wide-view mirror so you can keep an eye on any snotty-nosed passengers in the back. Top it all off, the CR-V is actually very comfortable to drive. And you might be thinking, for my winner in the family SUV category, I'd choose something like, I don't know, an Audi Q5 or another German model. But there is a brand this year with a model that has broken through and shaken up the class. And it offers everything those cars do, but for half of the price. And yes, it's another MG HS, but with one crucial difference. Because our family SUV of the year is the purely petrol MG HS. Now this is a talented car with sharp new looks, a slick infotainment, and well-built practical interior. But our other family SUVs offer those things by the bucket load as well. So why have we chosen this MG HS as our winner? Put simply, it represents arguably the best value for money of any car from any segment, because at 25 grand, it offers proper SUV practicality, but for crossover money. It drives nicely too. So when you've got kids to spend your money on, bargain offerings like the MG HS can really make a difference to family lives. It's a worthy winner. And what about the used family car selection? Well, I have a favourite from that, and it is the Volkswagen Tiguan. And that's because this is a car that's very spec dependent. I think it only looks great in higher trim, and that's true for both the latest one and the previous one. So I've chosen a Tiguan that doesn't just pack a punchy motor or have all the practical features you'll need for family life, but also comes dressed in R-Line trim. It looks super good. Now, while back in the day, the hatchback was Britain's best-selling car category, today we buy far more small SUVs than any other body shape, and so popular is the category that some brands have even killed off their popular-selling hatchbacks and let them cross over to the other side, just like the Citroen C3. Growing taller and swapping curves for angles has done the C3 no harm at all, because it's made the new crossover more practical without growing its footprint. But what really ensured this car would get under my skin on the launch was how ruddy comfortable it is. With a higher ride height and some clever Citroen wizardry, the new C3 isn't bothered about taking on the Ford Puma with sporty handling. Instead, it offers the cuddliest, most relaxing small SUV experience. Normally you've got a mechanical bump stop, so when it gets hit, it does that. But in these, it absorbs the impact and dissipates it, meaning you don't get shaken around. And for a sub 20k price, that leaves the Ford looking very pricey indeed. Second in the small SUVs class for 2024 is a car that packs just as much comfort as the Citroen C3, but adds a whole load of practicality and pizzazz. And it is the Peugeot 2008. And no, I'm not talking about this 2020 electric one, although this is a great used buy. I'm talking about the new and much sharper petrol one. Not long ago, a small SUV with a 1.2-litre engine would feel pretty gutless, but the turbocharged motor of the Peugeot 2008 somehow manages to be punchy and also pretty fuel efficient. And while it's not as sporty as the Puma or as squishy as the C3, this Peugeot feels well judged on British tarmac. Genuinely, this is one of the nicest small SUVs you can drive in any setting right now. Add in decent tech, space, and some great design, and the 2008 is a small SUV that's easy to love. But if you want to inject some fun into your small SUV, well, there is one out there that has topped our class for this year, and it packs as much fun as a hot hatchback, but it can still carry the family shop, and even the dog. Yep, everyone, including your furry friend, can experience the thrills of the Mini Countryman JCW because it has a racy 300 horsepower output, all-wheel drive, and enough space for the whole family. Of course, you can get a non-John Cooper Works badge Countryman for a lot less than this car's 41.5 grand price, and that'll still buy you the space, design, and brilliant new mini cabin. But us Brits are blessed with great driving roads, so if you can, I'd recommend going for this most thrilling of Countrymans. Just grips through the bend. With that all-wheel drive traction as well, you're forever confident that you can use the power however you want and however clumsily. But just remember to buckle up the dog when you take the long way home, because this is a small SUV you'll really want to drive. And what about when it comes to our used small SUVs? Well, the choice for me has always been easy in this category because it's been one of my favorites for years, and that is the Ford Puma. Now, the Ford Puma costs over £25,500 from Ford, but if you're prepared to buy one that's seen a few miles on the road, well then you can save over 10 grand on one, and yet it still looks as fresh as the day it came out of the factory, especially in this lovely blue. Now, while loads of Brits are buying small SUVs, the humble hatchback is still the car I think is the best car for our roads, because they're small and yet they're practical. And for many years now, the Golf has been the default choice. And yes, in 2024, the latest one had a massive update, and yet it still hasn't made my list. What is going on? Well, I'm going to be frank, the updated Golf is great, but it still gets those fiddly touch-sensitive climate controls. There was another car that had a very big update for 2024, and it was this, the Peugeot E208. And bearing in mind that this was a car that was already very good, so much so that we ran one on track, well, the improvements it brought have made sure it lands third on my list of best hatchbacks. And here's why. Building on an already much-loved base, Peugeot's updated E208 gained faster infotainment tech, sharper looks, and most importantly, a bigger battery offering 257 miles between charges. This is now a very small car that shames other small cars. That lot should have been enough to have me smitten, but it was the car's extra power and bold look that meant I really fell for the E208 when I sampled it on the continent. But my second favourite hatchback for 2024 is a car that wasn't just updated, it was completely renewed. And that It's the new Mini hatchback. But this might surprise you. I haven't gone for the Cooper petrol model, I've gone for the purely electric car. And for very good reason. With that brilliant new Mini interior squeezed neatly into the cabin of the hatch, the new Mini Cooper feels properly upmarket in any spec, but with no indecisive automatic gearbox to hamper the fun like it does in the petrol version, the electric Mini, the Cooper SE, feels like the more complete package. We didn't actually film the car for YouTube, which is why you're seeing shots of our petrol Mini review, but Ben did review the Cooper SE for our website, and he reported that the car is nippier and more playful at speed than before, and that the extended range of 250 miles meant the Cooper SE could, after its fairly lackluster predecessor, finally compete with the class's best. But of course, not everyone is ready to join Team EV just yet, so the winner of my hatchback category for 2024 is a car that drinks petrol very efficiently and is also very cheap to insure. Plus, well, it's just really good. Having ranked second in my hybrid list, the Renault Clio hybrid takes the top spot here because of its broad-ranging hatchback talents. That electric powertrain makes it effortless to drive. It rides and steers very nicely. It feels really grown up. Its compact footprint makes it easy to park, and yet inside, there's a cabin to rival the Minis for that premium feeling, and it definitely beats it when it comes to space. Plus, even the higher rank hybrid Clio costs from under 22 grand, making it the sort of hatchback you buy with your head, but quickly fall for with your heart. Now, for my used choice in the hatchback world, it was so tricky that I had to go for two cars, and I hope you'll let me off because hatchbacks can come in very different sizes. So I've gone for a really small one, and that is the Volkswagen Up GTI, and then with a slightly bigger hatchback, I've gone for the Ford Fiesta. And that's because both of these cars manage to offer proper hatchback credentials. They're practical and yet small, but they're also a lot of fun to drive. Honestly, these cars can make even the shortest journey a right old giggle. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget that we scrutinize cars every single week on this YouTube channel, so make sure you're subscribed to see what we think of the latest new cars. Now, this is my favorite category because it's performance cars, or cars for drivers. And this year's been very exciting, not least because we've had new entrants like the MG Cyberster. That's a really exciting roadster, and yet it hasn't made my top 3, and the car that came in third position was arguably even more surprising. So recently have we driven the BMW Z4 Handschalter that the video hasn't actually gone live yet, so you're getting a bit of a preview of what's to come. Best if you keep what I'm about to say to yourself for now. This is a car nobody expected to be built, but we are so glad it has been, because the only manual version of this latest Z4 feels like the Z4 we've always wanted, giving you even more control of that silky straight-six engine. The 6-speed manual feels just right, and the slightly more tied-down suspension setup means the car's 340 horses can be explored with more enthusiasm. No, this is still not a Porsche Boxster-beating two-seater at speed, but on a cruise, this is one of the most delightful BMWs you can buy today. And my second favourite performance car for 2024 is a model from a brand normally associated with sensible, practical cars like this. And while yes, it's both of those things, it is also one of the most thrilling cars I've ever driven. And that's despite the fact that it's electric. If you've had internet access these past few months, you will not be surprised to see the Hyundai Ioniq 5N on our performance car podium, although you might be surprised to know why I've chosen it. Yes, like others to have driven one, I was blown away by the N's ability to mimic a petrol car despite being electric. It really is impressive. But it's the fact the Ioniq 5N isn't just a gimmick. It's also a genuinely engaging and fun to drive performance car in its own right. With 650 horsepower, this Hyundai is supercar fast. 3.2 seconds. Well, 3.27, but 3.2 seconds. But it corners and stops just as well, making it the first electric car that feels purpose-built for a twisty British B-road. Now, if that Hyundai represented the first of a new breed, my winner for the performance car category represents the last of a dying breed. Because this is a car that not only feels like a four-door Ferrari, it also feels like one of the all-time greats. And that's because the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio is exactly the type of performance car we've always loved. It looks drop-dead gorgeous, has a vocal, powerful V6 engine, and it steers like a true sports car through the bends. And thanks to Italy's plentiful supply of rough and bumpy roads, the Giulia, even in racy Quadrifoglio trim, rides beautifully. But the things that elevated this fabulous performance four-door to the top of our podium were its not insignificant updates for 2024, including a wider torque band for more mechanical muscle and fun, and, well, a quickened infotainment system, which, well, it matters in 2024, doesn't it? As for my pick of the used performance car world, there were so many amazing options to choose from. On my list was the fab BMW M240i xDrive and even a certain ballistic Mercedes-AMG hot hatch. But the car I've gone with just so happens to be the king of hot hatchery in 2024 because it is the Honda Civic Type R. I've been in awe of this monster since I first drove one back in early 2023, and nothing in the world of front-wheel drive cars has come close since. And the most surprising car category this year is this one, the electric car. Because we've had new models from brands we've never heard of and also from brands that are almost as old as the motor car itself. Because it's taken 114 years for Alfa Romeo to launch its first production electric car. And in complete contrast to the Giulia that topped our performance category, the new Giulia doesn't feel like a bespoke offering. Its sharing of a platform with the Fiat 600 and Jeep Avenger has certainly left plenty of Alfa fans disappointed. But believe me when I say, the hot Veloce model is nothing like those cars.
Oh, lovely. I even got a bit of kick of lift-off oversteer and potentially a lifted rear.
You see, the same team that created the fabulous Quadrifoglio has positively transformed the Junior with hyper-alert steering and agile handling to match a punchy electric powertrain. It looks and feels great and can make even the most mundane of journeys a right old laugh. Although the same can be said for our second placed EV for 2024, which is a late entry because Ben only just drove it on the continent. But despite being less racy and more comfy, he reckons it's still brilliantly entertaining, as he explains here.
It's fun to drive, it looks great. I mean, if you want to stand out from the crowd, this is the car to go for. Plus, it even gets an optional baguette holder.
So good is the Renault 5 that we seriously considered giving it the top spot in our EV category. But of course, that would have meant ignoring the car many would consider to be the greatest newcomer of 2024 overall, which just so happens to be electric, and that is the Hyundai Ioniq 5N. Because while it didn't top our performance car category, it absolutely had to top this one. I mean, this is an electric car that so convincingly imitates a petrol one, and yet it can still do a respectable 278 miles between electric charges. Oh yeah, and it costs just 60 grand, which for a new car that has 650 horsepower is a right old bargain.
Hyundai has put so much effort into making these shift paddles and even the way this engine feels to make it realistic that it is super rewarding.
Yet, the most surprising thing about the Ioniq 5N is its warranty, because Hyundai will still honour it even if you take your car on track. Is there a better way to convince petrol heads that EVs are viable performance cars for the future? I don't think so.
There are so many cars to choose from in the world of used electric vehicles, but I've gone for one that they're all benchmarked against to this day, and that is the Tesla Model 3. Because this is a car, since its inception, that has been the car to compare your EV against, and that's true even for models that are not in its own class. And in fact, it has even bucked a trend, which is while SUVs grow in demand, people are still flocking to buy these in massive numbers. And one reason has to be for the value for money, because, well, if you go for one that's barely 4 years old, you can get them for way under 20 grand. Now, despite there being so many new entrants in 2024, if you've been paying attention, it won't surprise you to hear who I've chosen as the most exciting car brand for 2024. Because I have chosen Renault. And that's because Renault has really found its va-va-voom again. It's brought out some reborn classics like the Renault 5 and the incoming Renault 4, and even the Renault Twingo is coming back. Plus, well, if you think about the sensible stuff, they've got great technology, they're stylish, they're spacious, and they're, well, really good value for money, I think, too. And then you're going to think about the performance models that are coming out from sister brand Alpine. Really, overall, Renault is a worthy winner, I think.
But don't just take my word for it, watch our review of its most exciting car for years here. And let us know in the comments below, what car brand would you have chosen as your favourite, and what cars would you have added to the list?